Welcome, everyone. I'm Steven Beschloss, and this is Six Questions. It's hard to miss the aggressive attacks during the second Trump term on the security structure of the United States, on NATO, on our historic democratic allies in Europe and beyond, by cutting thousands of agents and other staff at both the CIA and the FBI, including people in counterterrorism who are charged with defending the U.S. against foreign attacks. Before Tulsi Gabbard left as Director of National Intelligence in May, she had cut 40% of the staff at DNI. Now Trump has installed Bill Pulte as the acting director there, a guy with zero security experience, but who displays total fealty and may be there to assist election interference operations. Among his first actions, removing over 50 career and political intelligence staff. Add to this, the ongoing dangers caused by Trump's reckless war of choice with Iran. And it's hard not to see America's current situation as national insecurity. To help understand what this all means, I'm talking this week to Malcolm Nance, a former U.S. Navy intelligence officer who specialized in cryptology, counterterrorism, and information warfare. He's also the best-selling author of such books as The Plot to Destroy America and The Plot to Betray America. He's somebody I count on to speak fearlessly about what's at stake. So I'm pleased to be joined by Malcolm Nance, who provides an unusual combination, I would say, of intelligence experience and the readiness to say exactly what he thinks. Thanks for being with me, Malcolm. Appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it as well. You're absolutely right. There's no one putting words in my mouth these days.
Well, these are not times for fear and reluctance to address things as they are. So let's jump in, and I want to start with the big picture. How unsafe is America right now, as compared to 2018, when you wrote, for example, The Plot to Destroy America, to Destroy Democracy, or your 2020 book, The Plot to Destroy America, and has your own alarm intensified?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, speaking as I can always speak as an American citizen, as a person who was born and raised in Philadelphia, where the American experiment started, and I can speak as an intelligence professional. I'm going to merge those two together. We are in mortal danger, and I don't say that lightly. I have never ever in my entire life delved in conspiracy theory. I can only discuss and show to you the empirical facts as they exist. This nation is in great grave danger. Certainly now I'm going to speak as a Philadelphian, right? I was just out in front of Independence Hall a couple of days ago reading the Declaration of Independence for National Security Leaders for America. And as you read that letter of indictment against King George III, you just realize this is exactly what's happening with the presidency today. Right? The only thing he hasn't done is quarter troops in our houses at our own expense. Everything else has happened, right?
Yeah.
Suspending, full-scale plot to suspend the writ of habeas corpus. That preceded the Magna Carta, right? And we have a man who is full-blown dictatorship. And his biggest problem is that there are people around him that tell him you have to go through the courts, you have to go through the motions. I think at some point very soon, perhaps just before this election or just after this election, if he has a bad event, I really think that he is just going to go full-blown dictator. Funny story before we go to the next part. In 2017, I wrote a story for a television show. I used to be a consultant at Warner Brothers, and it was about a presidency that had collapsed, had gone away. A joint government comes together, one Republican, one Democrat, president, vice president, America Kumbaya. And the Speaker of the House is the son of this man. And they kill the president, they disable the vice president, the Speaker of the House takes over and just decides enough of this law stuff, right? We're going to go to full-blown dictatorship, and is working with Moscow to create their own group to hunt down, liberals and others. Hollywood wouldn't touch it. And there's a reason. Here's what one of the phrases was. It's being overtaken by events.
I was going to say that maybe they thought it was far-fetched, but in fact,
It
they're
couldn't.
they're aware of where this is going. And by the way, I mean, I think you like me were people who could go back years. We could look at the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025. We could look at the effort that was underway to undermine the liberal democracy, and who were interested in putting in place a unitary executive, somebody who would have maximum power, something that was I would suggest made maybe absolutely certain once the Supreme Court's 2024 immunity ruling let him know he was going to be able to get away with just about anything. So here we are.
And we should stop using that phrase, unitary executive. We should start using the proper phrase, dictator.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Dictator. We couch these phrases in political ideologies and philosophies that people bring up. I've spent my entire life fighting warlords, dictators, junior potentates, and authoritarians of every stripe, and defending them, right? Most people don't realize the war on terrorism was the United States not only defending Islam, but defending kingdoms and emirates, right? An emirate is a principality. That's what the word literally means, principality. And we love those when they're on our side. But, now we have a president of the United States who for the first time realizes if he was pushed, he could have all the powers that Franklin Roosevelt had during World War II. And he's just started that, right? He wants to, change Singer sewing machine to making ballistic missiles, or whatever you want to call it, right? The way Remington Rand used to make typewriters, and then they were making.
Then we would argue that it was for the purpose of the arsenal of democracy, right? It was really needed rather than our current situation.
Very, very true. But this person's problem is his sustainment of himself as a malignant narcissist. And I took part in a movie about Trump, right? About Trump's psychopathy. As a malignant narcissist, his only concern is not hearing about himself, not seeing himself placed on a pedestal. And he's now seeing, according to this book, Regime Change, he's seeing his own mortality. He's going through some advanced chemical treatments that other people aren't getting. So now he's like, I saw John Aravosis, I think yesterday, said he was driving around the circle at Memorial, at the Arlington Cemetery to look at where his arch is going to be built. And he wants it built like within a year. He wants to see this before his death.
Right.
But that makes him more motivated to be hysterical and unconventional and murderous.
Yeah, and I take your point about a dictator or dictatorship, and I use a phrase like unitary executive because that was the the political scientific professionals who were using that kind of language to sort of argue how they were going to go about dismantling our government, dismantling liberal democracy, maximizing their power, let me offer you in this second question some specifics, and I'm thinking about this dismantling. In the last weeks, Trump's installed the utterly unfit Bill Pulte at the DNI. He immediately started firing people, even after Tulsi Gabbard had cut the DNI by 40%. Not only have thousands been cut by the CIA and the FBI, there have been ongoing attacks on NATO and the destruction of our relationships with European allies. We've seen Hegseth stripping away top military officers with deep expertise. How much and why has Trump accelerated his dismantling of the U.S. security structures in this second term?
Well, like all good third world dictators, and that's where he's pushing us, right, down to the third world. All good third world dictators want control of the intelligence apparatus for the sole purpose of hunting their political and personal enemies. Mm-hmm. They don't care about external intelligence. They don't care about, foreign threats unless it's to the regime itself, right? So, I mean, my entire career, I worked in collections for principally the National Security Agency, and I don't recall seeing many activities related to Iraqi external intelligence. because all of Iraqi external intelligence was oriented towards their enemies.
Mm.
Now, I worked on Libyan intelligence missions where they were carrying out acts of terrorism, but most of the activity was assassinating Libyan dissidents in other countries. And that's where Trump wants. He has set Pulte in to be the guy who delves into what he thinks is the deep state, the intelligence world, and uses them to come up with a solution. Tulsi Gabbard was doing that. Now, on the other hand, there is a plus side to this. I have never been a big fan of the Directorate of National Intelligence. First off, full disclosure, I am fully qualified to be the Director of National Intelligence.
Well, surely more than Bill Pulte.
Yeah, it requires career intelligence professional to fill that role. It doesn't say anything about management skills or managing money. If somebody would come up and say, Malcolm, we want you as Director of National Intelligence, I go, yeah, no problem. I'll take that job. I'll restore it back to what it is. This guy's not there to do that. He is there to dismantle it. And first thing he's going to do, he's going to fire all the professionals.
Yeah.
You saw that he was bringing on as a deputy person, is it Julie Cross, I think the name is, who is a
Norton.
Is it Martin?
Norton.
Okay, sorry. Who is brought on as a conspiracy theorist about the 2020 election.
Right.
So that agency is being turned into essentially Saddam's Mukhabarat, right? And without the executions. He has ICE for that.
Yeah.
And they are going to go down in there and they are going to find or manufacture evidence. Now, here's the best part about that, good news about that. People who are true intelligence professionals can stop all of that. Just stop it. Here's how they're going to stop it. All right. They're going to be given a set of orders and they're going to go to the cafeteria. They're going to have coffee and they're going to come back and they're just not going to do it. And they're going to go morning meeting the next day. What's the status on that 2020 election? They're going to read it. They're going to go, yeah, we don't have anything on that. Because when you're talking the National Security Agency, pardon my, I tell everybody this. I worked at NSA. I worked for NSA 20 years. The most loyal, constitutionally loyal agency in the United States government. They won't do nothing. All that stuff Edward Snowden said we were doing, they wouldn't do that. They don't do that. That's why they have to create, these lackeys to come out and do it. Even the CIA will drag their feet for 30 years, right? And then they'll come up with a finding saying everything that you wanted wasn't real. So there won't be any monitoring.
Why the dismantling has to happen, that the more of those people they can remove, then the more there's not going to be that pushback, the bulwark.
Yeah, well, I think it's great because empty desks can't be manipulated, right? All you can do is say, hey, I'm firing these guys. And then you say, I want to create a special monitoring team for liberals. Okay, you got to get equipment for that, bro. And you got to have operators that will sit and listen to that. Now, it's not so hard in the United States, right? English linguist. So, that kind of collection. But you're going to have to justify the application, their budgets. You're going to have to justify their pay scale. You're going to have to justify their collection orientation, which means whatever satellite, a radio or telephone relay, those numbers are going to come up. And if they all come up as the Democrats in the House and the Senate, you've just sentenced yourself to prison for the rest of your life because it will come out. And I'll tell you how it'll come out. It'll be some mid-level guy who's like me, who's got 10 years at Fort Meade or is over at the FBI, was tasked out, secondary guy from the military is tasked out. And he's going to go, I've been monitoring the phone calls of every Democratic congressman and senator and Jesse Jackson, or not Jesse Jackson, who's now passed, but, Barack Obama and all these guys. And they're going to drop the entire package of collection, like we like to joke at NSA, off a truck in front of the New York Times, right? Off a pallet will drop in front of the New York Times. And it'll be, I didn't do it. And what they'll do is they'll go over to someone else's computer they don't like, and they'll pull all that information off of them and frame them. The point is that we won't do this lightly. We won't do it. You're not a threat to the Constitution. You're not a threat to the people of the United States. It's a violation of the law. There are middle-level people that will start the ball rolling, and as they start going to their judge advocate generals, they'll come out and they'll say, we're not going to do that.
So let's count on the middle-level people to stick around and pay attention.
Well, NSA is even the highest level people. You could put Stephen Miller at the top of that agency, every door. I want to trust. I want to assure everybody. I worked for the Ford for 20 years, and my memoir's coming out this year, which NSA cleared enormous amounts of data that I didn't think would ever get
Wow.
cleared. They are just a loyal organization, and they are the real heroes in the United States because director of NSA is a military officer. Deputy director is a career civilian. Even if you take those two guys and you put in two total lackeys in, every door in Fort Meade has its own cipher lock. If you are not cleared to go into that door and read into that program and watch them at work, you won't know what's happening. So if you come in and you say, hey, English language collection, Democratic Party, I'll be like, yeah, man, all right, whatever. And they'll come back and they'll say, what do you got? And I go, yeah, we've been rolling cast iron on them. We've been rolling 24/7 on them. They don't use their phones. And if you try using a computer, go ahead, use a computer. Computer will compromise you faster than a human ever will.
Yeah.
You know, and all the evidence will be laid out for your 20-year, 30-year prison sentence when the government inevitably changes.
So let's talk about, this is the third question, and let's
Is it?
focus on a little bit of like the why of this. I mean, we've already kind of worked our way around it, but you know, is what's happening principally in service to Vladimir Putin? Is it largely a result of Trump's obsession with loyalty, or how about this, creating the conditions for another coup with minimal pushback? I mean, this includes the question of election interference in the midterms and the possible exploitation of a terrorist attack to crack down on dissent.
Well, simply put, all three are correct. But they are all within an encompassing circle, right? So if we're talking that you have these three interlocking rings, all of which have one nexus, well, that nexus wouldn't be Donald Trump. That would be the sustainment of the Trump financial world. And that would be encompassed in one circle, Donald Trump's ego, right? So you have Russia. He doesn't believe in Russian ideology. He doesn't believe in Putinism. He doesn't believe in Dugin's neo-Eurasianism. He does believe in the tripolar world, which was pushed by Steve Bannon and Vladimir Dugin, and I'm sorry, Alexander Dugin. He believes in that because he was promised that Russia would take Europe, America would take the Western Hemisphere, and you could have the Monroe Doctrine, and China would get Asia. That's 3 buckets of money, right? And so in his world, that all-encompassing ego is actually Donald Trump's belief in the value of himself, which is all money belongs to Donald Trump. And now he is America. All of America's money belongs to Donald Trump. Fort Knox, as far as he's concerned, is his money. Spend $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Cut food stamps for every child in America and literally starve Americans. He doesn't give 2 flips about that. It's about Donald Trump. His relationship with Putin is admiration, but he doesn't work for Putin. He accepted Putin's, and I wrote about this in Plot to Destroy Democracy. Putin was engineering this takeover of the United States through lackeys, right? But what he didn't run into, what he didn't understand was, if there's a great book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and there's a character in there called Zaphod Beeblebrox, and he's this character has double heads in there, and he's hilarious. And there is a torture that they devise in that book, which is they take you and expose you to the entire awesome size of the universe and your actual dimensions in proportion to it. And it drives you mad and your head explodes, right? So they put Zaphod Beeblebrox into this device and they go, okay, that's the end of him, right? And then they open it up, the machine fizzles and blows up. Zaphod walks out and they say, you're alive. What happened? Didn't you see the entire expanse of the universe and your size comparison to it? And he says, yeah, it just shows I'm an awesome guy. That's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Everything in this universe
orbits around him.
Orbits around, but in his mind, he is expanded beyond known universe. So Putin is actually doing things for him because Donald's awesome. And Donald's going to get things, and he's going to get access to that $2 trillion of Russian sanctioned money. Same thing with regards to the Constitution and laws. That's just a means to an end. He just wants the legitimacy of the crime he's going to commit, right? And then when he commits crimes, he just walks away from them. And that's what Haberman and Swan said. It's his own belief that none of this is wrong and it's all going to work out right, and he doesn't care, right? And the third component of that is, will he do horrible things to affect that? Well, I used to do a podcast with Michael Cohen, his former lawyer, and he said Donald Trump is actually a coward. He's a real coward. And when it comes down to things he has to have suffer consequences for, like that actually he can see people's lives, sentencing people to death or things like that, he doesn't want to know any of that. He doesn't care about 169 school children killed in Iran. He doesn't care about that. You know, the same way that Americans didn't care about the 290 civilians we killed when we shot down an Iranian airliner in 1988. I was there for that.
Yeah.
So I feel empathy. I feel terrible. I feel horrible. This man is Zephod Beeblebrox in this box of the universe.
He does not.
He's just awesome. He's awesome. And
He's always
everything he
awesome.
does is awesome. And that guides the pathology, the psychopathology in his head. The man controls 4,500 atomic bombs. The clearest way to mark himself in history is to exceed Harry Truman. And I kept thinking during the Iran war, when they kept saying, hey, we're going to go down, we're going to dig out those nuclear materials. Well, actually, the fastest way to get rid of the Iranian nuclear program is to land a special force there for a few hours, dig a borehole down in there, or use these GBU-52, deep penetrating bombs, create a borehole, and drop a 5-kiloton nuclear weapon down it. Boom, guaranteed. No Iranian nuclear program. Very minimalized fallout, but Donald Trump will be universally excoriated. But guys like Stephen Miller and Pete Hegseth will say to him, you are now done something that no other president has done. Now, the other two guys, Harry Truman killed 200,000 Japanese in less than a tenth of a second, But to Trump, he wants to be Genghis Khan, he says. Yeah. He's told people that. Vaporizing Tehran.
You're anticipating events like that in the next 2 years.
First off, he has dementia.
Yeah.
It's clearly, okay, he sees his end coming, and I go to France every year for Bastille Day. I always stay at a hotel near the Arc de Triomphe. It's a beautiful symbol. I've been to France maybe 40 times, never been to the top of the Arc de Triomphe. Did you know there's a stairwell up there? Never been there because I see it. Okay, beautiful. That's it. I understand the history. I understand it's the purpose of it for the Grand Army of the Français, right? And it's a great place to march around. But I don't dwell on it as I need one of those in my backyard. He does. It was Bastille Day 2017 that put the zap on Donald Trump's head. Was it 2018? When he went to the Bastille Day and the French put him at the head of the parade. Here's a good example of how horrible a person he is. Not only that he wouldn't go to the cemetery. The French marked the U.S. arrival, in World War II, right? Lafayette, nous sommes arrivés, right? We've arrived. By having a color guard of U.S. Army soldiers lead the entirety of the French Army and French government in the Bastille parade, wearing World War I uniforms. And when I saw it, I was thrilled. Oh, it's just super thrilled. And here's the problem. They had 2 black soldiers in the color guard, right? 8 men in the color guard, 6 to 8 men in the color guard, and 2 black soldiers, which would have been about the proportions that my grandfather, who served in Saint-Nazaire, and my granduncle, who was in Saint-Mihiel, that they would have been in the army. Trump loved the pageantry of the parade, but he at no time acknowledged that the U.S. Army was leading the parade. He didn't even meet the soldiers.
That was of no interest. So let me linger on the third part of this, which is, whether the stripping away of the security structure creates the conditions for another coup attempt, right? And not having the same collection of people to fight back, and similarly, the possibility of a terrorist attack, which a normal human would consider a great problem, looks to him as an opportunity.
Yeah, in terms of terrorist attack, that is not going to work. We've already seen people, myself included. I'm a counterterrorism professional. I spent decades hunting and dealing with terrorists. We know of, the thing is, I have never in my entire life ever used the words false flag, ever. But I have seen now some of the makings of where think, I have this joke name. I stole this phrase from the intelligence community. It's as ancient as time immemorial, but coincidence takes a lot of planning. I call it Nance's law, right? Nance's law is coincidence takes a lot of planning. I see far too many coincidences these days.
Yeah.
The timing of these things are brilliant. You know what? I'm gonna say it out loud. I cannot understand the assassination attempt at Butler. I've seen people actually shoot ears. I've seen, extreme close-ups of Donald Trump ear. He was not struck by a bullet. Period.
Yeah.
Done. Everybody can see that now. I've seen 40,000 K high definition images of his ear then and his ear now. Did subsonic or supersonic flight go by, rupture an eardrum? That's a possibility, but I can't prove it. All I know is there are far too many coincidences with these guys, far too many opportunities where people can cry out, right side fire.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I said at the time, where are the credible sources on the Butler shooting, and likewise, where actually now there's no investigation. He's disbanded the investigation.
Yeah, and
he apparently doesn't really want to know.
To have the deputy
really
director of the
know.
FBI come out and say, "Go ask Trump. Trump shut that down." Can you believe anything more shocking? If I were copying this, okay, and this were Burkina Faso, and I was like reading this report from the director of internal security of Burkina Faso, I would go to the watch officer in charge. I'd be like, there was a fake assassination attempt in Burkina Faso. The principal, the president shut down all internal investigation. People dead, no problem. Let's move on and have lunch.
So
it defies
possible.
logic.
Yeah, so
it's all possible.
So let's talk about history for a moment. Is there another time in U.S. history that you would point to where the kind of dismantling of the intelligence structure of the United States was put in place to ensure national security?
It's never happened.
Yeah.
It's never happened. Everyone needs, look, can I point something out to you, Steve? We have always had, even with the stupidest presidents, okay? I'm looking at you, Andrew Jackson. Man was self-taught, wasn't the most educated person, but he still became erudite and intelligent. And even when he was committing genocide with the American Indians, right, ethnically cleansing the entire East Coast of the United States, he had an argument for it that was rational. Even, I'm going to say this as a child, as a child of a family of slaves from South Carolina and Georgia, I can actually point to all of my slave owners and where we were held in bondage. Even the South had a cogent argument for leaving the Union that was rooted in the Constitution. Everything I'm seeing now, there is no grounding in it except for the ego of an individual that is a malignant narcissist who would rather see the Constitution destroyed. Again, we started this with us talking about my reading the Declaration of Independence. And my favorite line of the Declaration of Independence is the one that reads, and I have it memorized for years now, right? Every act, a prince in which every act defines a tyrant is not fit to rule over a just people.
Yeah.
And I go, when that was read in summer of 2017, I was just saying, when that was read on 20th summer 17 on NPR, where they read the whole Declaration of Independence, MAGA thought they were insulting Trump. Yeah.
And look, I mean, it should be noted that a year ago, actually, Terry Moran, then at ABC News, was in the Oval Office. He asked Trump about the Declaration of Independence. And the best that Trump can do is to say, it's a document of love and respect and unity. He obviously never read it.
It's an indictment.
Exactly. It's a document about tyranny and oppression and monarchy. But
and double fingers up to George III, right? I got to tell you something. I recently watched one of my favorite films. It was so good. I saw it in Philadelphia when I was in high school or university. And it was called The Madness of King George. And I recently rewatched that film. Because King George III, he did in fact go crazy. He was urinating blue urine, and for 8-9 months he was literally out of his mind and
Yeah.
under the treatment of essentially a torturer. And there is virtually no difference in what I'm seeing right now. King Donald the Last, as I like to call him, is the madness that has infected America. Here we are at our 250th anniversary. And to be quite honest, no one wants to celebrate it.
Yeah, I've never seen a 4th of July, let alone a monumental event like the 250th, where people are more dispirited about the event. So let's talk about Iran.
Is this the fourth question?
It is, in fact, the fifth question.
Oh, fifth question. Awesome.
Yeah. So Trump launched the reckless and unauthorized war of choice against Iran, and you've provided essentially daily coverage. A few-part question: how big a deal is this war, and how great a foreign policy blunder is it, and how destructive is it for the long-term interests of the United States?
I can answer all three of those almost simultaneously. One, historically, this is a turning point in American history in the post-war era. When Korea came to a draw, it's still in a state of ceasefire, right? 80 years later.
Yeah.
Vietnam, loss. And, it reminds me of this story that an Army colonel from one of the war colleges went to Vietnam and met his equivalent during the Vietnam War. They were both like junior first lieutenants during the Vietnam War. And, they met as former, adversaries. And he said, well, we beat you. There was not one battle you actually won. Maybe Khe Sanh, but there's not one battle you actually won. We defeated you in every battle. And the Vietnamese colonel says, well, that's irrelevant. We won the war. Right? The Afghans can say that right now. It's irrelevant. You sold us you gave us the country, so this war
won the war.
This war is historic because Iran has won the war as the third asymmetric war that we've fought since the end of World War II. When I say asymmetric, I'm saying that America's strengths were its greatest weaknesses. Our enemy's simplicity defeated us because we relied on our technology and our strength. Great line, I like to use popular fiction from time to time. Great line in a movie that everybody should watch called The Gardens of Stone. It's about these soldiers who were at Arlington Cemetery in 1968. And who's the actor? James Caan is a rough and tumble sergeant major who comes back, and he is the sergeant major of the honor guard, along with James Earl Jones. All right, now put those two guys in the same picture. And one of the young soldiers gets in a debate with him. This guy's trying to train them to go to Vietnam because the honor guard does rotate to Vietnam. And one of the soldiers is disagreeing with him in a bar, and he says, listen, they can't beat us. They're fighting us F-4 Phantoms with bows and arrows. And James Caan goes, how do you defeat an enemy that will fight an F-4 Phantom with bows and arrows? That is Iran in a nutshell.
Yeah.
They didn't look, we sank their silly ass Navy. I fought their Navy in 1988, almost got killed by them, right? They lost a missile duel that they were in with my ship.
Well, after all, the Ukrainians have been proving that drones, very inexpensive drones can accomplish enormous things. Something that the U.S. military has not been prepared for.
A nation with no navy sank all of the ships of an opposing navy. How do you do that? That's asymmetric.
So how destructive for the long-term interests of the United States?
Insanely destructive, because what they've done is they have revealed every weakness America has now. We have determined that all of our bases in the Middle East are worthless. Worthless. They hit every base in the Persian Gulf that we had. Every base took hits. They destroyed a base I lived on for almost a year in Bahrain. The U.S. Central Command, Navy, U.S. NAV sent forward, which back in the old days was Commander Middle Eastwood, leveled it. They destroyed the Baskin Robbins, so we're never going back. On the other hand, America has hit them with every weapon system we had in our inventory. Do you know that?
Yeah.
The only thing we haven't hit Iran with was an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
That's it. We hit every weapon in every quantity we would want or like to use. We also used every advanced weapon system we would need for a war with an actual near-peer adversary, which is called China, not Russia. Russia's a third-rate country. We could beat them with the Boy Scouts. China, with all of their thousands of radars, we needed that 1,000 stealth cruise missiles we fired at a country that had no radars after the first day, just because it was cool.
Yeah.
Right? We wasted the core of America's fighting strength. And now China looks at it. Iran was dug into mountains. And now Iran, when they get all this money, they're not going to buy new jets. They're not going to buy any jets. They're going to buy more surface-to-air missiles that can be fired from inside a mountain that track heat, not require radars. No more radar.
They understood what Trump had been warned about, and every other president been warned about. If you block the Strait of Hormuz, there are profound economic consequences.
Well, they now,
and they're continuing to prove that.
Well, they've created a strategic choke point in which it's like putting your thumb on your carotid artery, but only 20%. All right, you go blurry, you go blind, and then you eventually will pass out, even though you're not completely cutting that major choke point. It's enough to endanger the swimming pool of oil that is now decreasing to the lowest levels in history because of Donald Trump's insane belief that they would never close the Strait of Hormuz. If somebody had said, Malcolm, what's going to happen there? I fought them. I've been through the Strait of Hormuz a dozen times. They're going to close the Strait of Hormuz, high-speed boats, mines, anti-ship missiles. When I fought the Iranians in 1988, they had expended their last anti-ship missile, an American-made Harpoon. They immediately went out and bought 1,000 Chinese anti-ship missiles, and they only fired 5 in this war, which means that they've been biding their inventory for a real battle, and that hasn't come yet.
So you are leading me right into the 6th question. Is repair possible? Donald Trump is gone. The regime is out of power, not only to rebuild needed security operations and military operations, but also just as important, rebuilding trust globally. Can our historic allies ever trust the U.S. again?
Yes, but it's going to take an exceptional change. I mean, MAGA itself as a force will have to be rejected and humiliated. All of those people who are sycophants, who are enabling Trump, must be held to account. And this time account doesn't mean, oh, we're going to put a couple in jail and let the leadership off. The Republican leadership, we're going to we catch every one of them that did inside trading. Every person that made $1 off this government, they need to go and get that money back, right? Trump's family needs to be stripped of all of its money. Waste, fraud, and abuse that was done at the direction of the president must be held accountable, and their personal fortunes must be jimmied for that. As far as I'm concerned, Ivanka, Don Jr., Eric, they need to quietly board a plane to Abu Dhabi and exile themselves and never come back. By the way, full disclosure, I lived in Abu Dhabi for 10 years. This time of year, you do not want to be in Abu Dhabi, right? It's 105 degrees in the shade.
Accountability is top of the list. That's no question.
But this requires what I call FDJFK. We need a Franklin Delano John F. Kennedy to come in one person, in one package, who will say, I'm going to restore America at a level one, Roosevelt-like, right? I'm going to create systems, processes for the little guy in America. You're going to social America, social services, everybody's getting it. First thing I would do is President Malcolm Nance, I would lower the retirement age to 64. Boom, right? All of you get your money. Go retire. Go do something nice. Go to the gardening store. Full, all of our children will eat for free. No American will be on the streets and starve again. People with mental health will get their mental health treatment. You have already tried what it's like to be an evil, mean-spirited, stingy bastard America. And it sucks. And not one of you is a Christian. Jesus Christ, his actual meanings, right, will be front and center here. Right? The same Jesus that's in the Quran, right? The same Jesus that was a Jewish carpenter from Nazareth, right? A Jewish rabbi. Everybody will agree with this. You will be good. Sesame Street will be elevated back to the pinnacle of television. Public television will be 100% United States funded, and by statute cannot have its money removed. Every vestige of Donald Trump will be removed.
You're suggesting that the lesson of these Trump years might actually be learned by the American people, that the price that they've paid for refusing or being unable to recognize what we were at risk of experiencing if that guy got back in power. Now they've seen it. Now they're living through it. Now they're facing the consequences of it. Maybe Americans will be ready to do something different.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, but it's going to take an FDJFK, right?
Yeah.
If that's Gavin Newsom, and I've heard Gavin Newsom speak up pretty strongly, this is a chance. I'm sorry to say it, this is a once in a 150-year chance for somebody to embody all that is good, the best of every president of the United States. And here's the key component. You cannot feel that you cannot say things plainly, right? Because the phrase that I have been saying every time I got on television, back before when I left MSNBC, when I now speak out at these forums, I always say this: what is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you so evil and hateful and stingy and un-American? And they go, well, I'm American, I'm a patriot. I go, no, you're a rat bastard. You're a rat bastard, and you should be kicked out of this country. You should be in Russia. You love the KGB director so much. Whoever speaks like this and says, I'm restoring America, you could come along with us. If you want to call us socialist commie America, here's one thing those guys never learned. The most socialist organization / communist organization in America is the armed forces of the United States. Okay. Yeah. And you love the military, full-scale socialism. You love your fire department, full-scale socialism. You love your streets being made, full-scale socialism. You're an idiot. Learn what America is, right? Learn to love America of all Americans. Otherwise, you get out. It was not intended to be the white paradise that the Ku Klux Klan always wanted it to be. And we're this close to the third revival of the Klan.
So just one last question here is:
Sure.
Is it your view that that the 2026 midterms, 129 days from now, starts the change you're talking about? I mean,
absolutely.
Obviously the need for an overwhelming defeat of the Republicans is clear, but I mean, we talk about 2028, and another time we'll talk about, you know, possibilities of who that person is. But it does seem to me that if we don't get through the midterms, then what you're envisioning ain't going to happen.
No, what I'm envisioning is, you know, a couple of times, my last book that I wrote was called They Want to Kill Americans. And it was about what would happen if Trump loses an election, right? And the rise of QAnon theory and all that stuff in the Republican Party and how they are in love with guns. There have been dozens of right-wing extremist incidents in the last 10 years, dozens, where guys have killed federal officers, these boogaloo boys gunned down people thinking the revolution is coming. White boy summer, as they call it, was coming. Other guys who thought the book, The Order, right, the Turner Diaries was a template, and that they could start hanging liberals on the day of the noose, as they called it. This was becoming a reality. It's becoming a real reality. And if Trump cheats or patently just says we're not going to do this election, or just say, I'm in charge, that's it, America can go to revolution.
Yeah.
And I want, as a Philadelphian, I do not want a blood revolution. I want a color revolution. A color revolution is a popular uprising from the streets up, in which the vestiges of power are pushed out through, opprobrium and shame, right? And are pushed out. And Trump is the kind of guy that will turn this into Ukraine's 2014, orange revolution, where he'll call out the Berkut and start mass murdering citizens. And I think he is cornered into that, because to him, it's all about his historical place in history.
Well,
and I think this time
we're going to have some exciting months ahead of us.
Oh my God, I hope not.
let's try to keep our cool as much as we can and be ready.
Yeah.
It's going to ask, I think it's going to ask a lot of us, a lot of everyone, to pay attention, not look away, and recognize the responsibilities to America if you're interested in the survival of the democracy. That's,
Yes.
you're warning us to be ready for it. So I thank you for that. And I want to leave you one last thing, a lightning round, six more questions. You can answer with a word or a sentence. You ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
What makes you happy?
Visiting my late wife at Washington Crossing National Cemetery.
What makes
If you lose your
angry?
spouse, that I can't visit. That's not true. What makes me angriest? It brings tears to my eyes. I hate it. I hate what I see happening to this country. I grew up around the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall, and I believe in every part of the American experiment, and I hate what's happening here right now.
What is your favorite word?
Phrase or word? My favorite word, that's an endeavor.
Mm-hmm. What living person do you most admire?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. Oh, Volodymyr Zelensky. I was in the Ukrainian army. I served under him. I love that man. He is the true leader of the West.
The leader of the free world. What historical person do you most admire?
That's a tough one because I got a couple of them. And that, if I could ever meet them in history. I'm going to tell you something most people don't understand with African Americans. They all go, Lincoln, right? No. I've read multiple histories of George Washington. That guy could have had it all. I live near Newburgh. Newburgh, when he gave the Newburgh address at the end of the war, when the army was going to go into rebellion and make him a king. And he said, that's not what we just fought all this for. You'll get paid eventually, but we got to do this the right way. And then he was elected president. I admire Washington greatly. He is really what made America.
Last one. What gives you hope?
Well, what gives me hope is, I got to tell you, there are a lot of young guys out there. Some of these guys, Isaiah Martin, Talarico in Texas. But I'm really liking these guys who speak up about their time. I got to tell you something. I am on Team Graham Plattner. I know young Marines do stupid things. Okay, I've had to work with young Marines. That guy is a force. And he's a force who comes out and he says, yeah, I did stupid things, but I'm going to be the best senator you ever had. And I'm going to work for you, not for them. So these young street level Democrats who are coming up, who are saying, we're going to really give America what it needs. Those are the ones I have a lot of hope in them.
Thank you, Malcolm. I really appreciate the conversation. As always, look forward to doing it again.
It's been my pleasure. I like this format.
Thanks.
All right. Take care.